Hi guys, I'm Monica. I welcome you all to my channel Aerocar. So, in our journey of aerodynamics, as we proceed further, we come to a question that is the movement of fluid element. Now, till now, we were seeing that the fluid element is moving from one place to another, that is only in one direction and in one shape. There's only the displacement of the fluid element. Now, there is one aspect that we did not look at, and as the heading or title of our topic suggests today, that is rotating fluid element, we did not consider the rotation of the fluid element. We did not have a look that if my fluid element is moving from this particular place to a particular place somewhere over here, will it be in the same form, or is there a possibility that it might rotate along its own axis? So in order to look at these aspects or answer these questions, we are going to start this video. So without any further delay, let's get started. Let us consider a fluid element, infinitesimal fluid element, moving in a flow field. As you can see in the figure over here, we have considered this fluid element. So as you can see in the initial position, this fluid element is in a normal position, that is perpendicular to this line, that is our streamline. But as it progresses further, you can see that this fluid element has rotated. So let us say this is our fluid element at time t1, this is our fluid element at time t1, and this is a fluid element at time t2. So what is happening within this time span between T1 and T2? What is happening? The fluid element has distorted with respect to its shape. That is, the shape of the fluid element seems to be a little distorted. So there might be a possibility that this might happen like this. So here we can see that it is not distorted. But as we move further, you can observe that this fluid element is something of this sort. The shape of the fluid element might be a little distorted. Now, the amount of rotation and the distortion of this fluid element, it depends on the velocity field. So now let us consider a two-dimensional flow in an xy plane. So in this xy plane, let us imagine that there is a flow which is taking place, and in that we take our two-dimensional coordinate system. In this flow we consider an infinitesimal fluid element. So initially, the first diagram that you're able to see here, this normal square which is looking as a normal, this fluid element that is at time t, this fluid element is in the rectangular shape or square shape at time t. And one thing we will assume over here, that is this fluid is moving in upward direction and to the right. So when it moves in the upward direction, this fluid element, as you can see here, this is at time t plus delta T. What is happening as the fluid element is moving from T to delta T? We can see that the shape of the fluid element has been distorted a little. Now, how it has been distorted and what is happening and how we can look at it mathematically is what we are going to take a look. Now, the thing to be noted over here is that during this time increment of delta t, what has happened to the sides AB and AC? If you can see carefully, the sides AB and AC have rotated through some angles, and let us consider that as delta theta 1, and this would be our delta theta 2. I'll put it here so that it will be a little clear. This is minus delta theta 1. Now, why are we saying that this delta theta 1 is minus? Because we consider the counterclockwise rotation conventions to be positive. That is the delta theta 2, which is a counterclockwise rotation, whereas the clockwise rotation is considered to be negative, which is a delta theta 1. Now, initially for our derivation purpose, let us consider or concentrate on the line AC, which has moved. As you can see here, this is AC, and when you place it, or it has moved here, it has moved with an angle or distorted with an angle delta theta 2. Now let us say this point C is at a distance dx. As you can see, I've mentioned here, this is at a distance dx from A. So with respect to A, what has happened to point C? Initially they both were parallel, but now point C has moved a little upward when compared to at time t. Correct? So now here the velocity that we are going to consider is in the y direction. So as you can see here, I've put y and x directions both. So in x direction, velocity at A would be u, and in y direction, the velocity would be v. So here my velocity in y direction is v. When at a distance, if I want to calculate at time t, so at time t, what will be my velocity? V plus dou v by dou x, correct? So at time t, from the diagram, can we write it as v plus dou v by dou x into dx. So this is my velocity at point C, but at time t. Now what is happening in y direction as it moves from time t to delta t? Correct? We have to note that. Now distance in y direction, what is the distance in y direction that we can have a look at? Yes, have a look at this element and try analyzing what would be the distance in y direction that A has moved. Yes, so that would be nothing but v delta t, because we almost see that v is at the same point in the y direction. It has not changed much, but when it comes to c, we observe a shift in position. So can I write it in something of this form? Yes, this is my distance in y direction that c has moved with the time increment delta t. Now if I want to write the net displacement in y direction of c with relative to A, how can I write that? We can just subtract these two entities, correct? So that would be nothing but this minus this, and upon substituting and subtracting, we would be left with dou v by dou x dx delta t, correct? So this is our net displacement in y direction of c relative to A. Now from the geometry, if you carefully look at, if I want to write tan delta theta 2, then how can we write tan delta theta 2? So let us write down that over here. So tan delta theta 2 can be written as dou v by dou x dx delta t by dx. And in a simplified form, we can write it as dou v by dou x into delta t. So this is from the figure that we get our tan delta theta 2. Let us put this as our equation 1. Now as we can see that this rotation which is taking place is very small. So the angle delta theta 2 is very small. So now when I say that this angle, that is a change in angle delta theta 2, is small, so can we say that delta theta 2 is almost equivalent to theta 2? Correct? Can we write that? Or is there any mistake that we're making here? Yes, certainly. Delta theta 2 cannot be written as theta 2. This will be delta theta 2. The tan component of it, whenever you're considering such assumptions or whenever the angle is small, the tan component, that is tan delta theta 2, can be written as delta theta 2. That is only the angle. So when I write it only as an angle, can I write it as delta theta 2 is equal to dou v by dou x into delta t? Correct? So this is my equation. Now let us consider the line AB. So point B is at a distance dy from point A. As said, the x velocity or the x component of velocity at point A is u. So what would be the component of velocity at B in x direction? How can we write that? That would be u plus dou u by dou y into dy. Correct? Now, when the fluid element is moving from time t to delta t, what is happening to B? B has also rotated with an angle minus delta theta 1. So how we are going to have a look at this delta theta 1? Let us have a look. The net displacement in x direction, if I want to write how much in the x direction has B changed when relative to A. What is the net displacement? If I have to write, what would be that net displacement? It would be dou u by dou y dy delta t. Correct? So again, same from the figure, can we write tan minus delta theta 1 as dou u by dou y dy delta t by dy, which upon simplification gives me dou u by dou y delta t. So this is our equation 3. Now again, delta theta 1 is small. If delta theta 1 is small, what happens to tan minus delta theta 1? It becomes delta theta 1 equal to minus dou u by dou y into delta t. Let us keep this as our equation 4. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to consider the angular velocities of line AB and AC, and these angular velocities are nothing but d theta 1 by dt and d theta 2 by dt. So now how do we get this d theta 1 by dt? From our equation 4, if I want to write d theta 1 by dt using our mathematical relation, can we write it in this form? Limit delta t tends to 0 and delta theta 1 by delta t. Correct? And this would be minus dou u by dou y. Right? This delta t comes on this side. This would be our equation 5. So similarly, from our equation 2, we get d theta 2 by dt, which would be limit delta t tends to 0 and we get delta theta 2 by delta t is equal to dou v by dou x. So now we have got our angular velocities. What is the next task that we do? By definition, what is this term angular velocity? Since 2 minutes we are talking about this term called angular velocity, right? So as its name indicates, you might have an idea what is an angular velocity. But we have one more definition for it. What is that definition? Angular velocity of the fluid element. As you can see in that xy plane, it is nothing but the average of angular velocities of line AB and AC. So if I want to take the angular velocity of this whole fluid element, it would be the average of angular velocities of line AB and AC. Now we have got the angular velocities of line AB and AC. So Let us denote this angular velocity of this fluid element as omega z. So when I say average, can I write it in this form? It would be d theta 1 by dt plus d theta 2 by dt. This is our equation 7. And now we have got the values of d theta 1 and d theta 2. If I substitute them, what will be the answer? We can write it as dou v by dou x minus dou u by dou y. This is our equation 8. Now this equation 8, this is for 2D space or 2D Cartesian coordinate system. But in general, fluid movement is never two-dimensional, right? Fluid always moves in a three-dimensional field or a three-dimensional space, and its angular velocity is omega. It is oriented in some general direction. Equation 8, we can see that we have got the z direction component. So similarly, we can get the x and y direction components as well. Now, if we move on to the 3D space, how can I write the angular velocity? Can I represent it as something of this sort? Omega x I cap, omega y j cap, and omega z k cap. So omega z we have already got. So based on that, we can write omega as dou w by dou y minus dou v by dou z. Have a look at these components of x and y while I'm writing. So when you're deriving it all by yourself, ensure that you get the same answer following the same procedure as we did for the z direction. So this is our angular velocity in 3D space. So this would be dou u and k cap. Let us put this as our equation 9. So this equation 9, what is it expressing? It is expressing the angular velocity of fluid element in terms of derivatives of the velocity field, if you observe carefully. Correct? Why is this angular velocity term important, or where do we come across it? So you come across it mostly in the theoretical part of aerodynamics. It plays a very important role. Now what we are going to do is we are going to introduce a new term called as vorticity. So vorticity is to be defined as the twice of angular velocity. So let us denote this vorticity with a symbol called xi. And when I say it is the twice of angular velocity, xi would be equal to 2 omega. And when I substitute the omega in that, what happens to the equation? This is what we get. Dou v by dou z I cap plus dou u by dou z minus dou w by dou x j cap, and the z component at the last, that is dou v by dou x minus dou u by dou y k cap. So this is our vorticity. Let us put this as our equation 10. Now, there is one definition of curl that we have, the term called curl. So from this equation 10, I can write its right hand side as this, which denotes the curl of a vector. So which means from this equation, can we say that curl of a vector is equal to vorticity? Correct? Curl of a vector and the velocity field is equal to vorticity. So based on this equation, we have two conclusions that come up. Yes, in the velocity field, the curl of the velocity is equal to vorticity, as we said. Now, what are those two important definitions? I have left some blank places over here. Let's see. If dash at every point in a flow, the flow is called rotational. So any guesses what would be this blank filled with? When I say the fluid is rotational, and I'm saying here that this is the vorticity is equal to the curl of the vector, or curl of velocity, sorry. So can I say that if this curl is not equal to 0, which means my flow is rotational? That is, the fluid elements have finite angular velocity, correct? Vice versa, if I say that this curl is equal to 0, what will happen to my flow or fluid? The flow is irrotational, which means there is no angular velocity, and the motion of the fluid is pure translational. So these are the two points in terms of mathematical definition. If you want to remember the rotational or irrotational flow, how the mathematics and the physics is getting connected over here, you can see very beautifully how it has been connected. So if the curl is equal to 0, which means my fluid is irrotational, and if it is not equal to 0, which means my fluid element is rotating. So now let us consider the fluid elements in rotational flow. So this figure A, which you can see here, is the rotational flow, where you can see that the fluid elements are rotating as they are moving or proceeding ahead in the flow. When we come to this second diagram, there is something different we observe, correct? Because in this initial diagram, in both the streamlines, the fluid elements are rotating. When we come to the figure 2, in the first streamline, the fluid elements are the same, that is, only the translational motion is taking place. But when we move to the lower streamline, it shows that the angular velocities of two intersecting sides are finite but equal and opposite to each other. As we look at these fluid elements, this is what we observe. So what happens? Their sum is equal to 0, because this is going over here. As you can see, the direction, they are equal and opposite. So what happens to their sum? It identically becomes 0, which means in both the cases, angular velocities of the fluid element is 0. So when we say angular velocity of the fluid element is 0, what happens? The flow is irrotational. So now in a 2D flow, in the 2D xy plane, if I have to consider from our equation 10, what was our equation 10? So from this equation, if I want to consider in a two-dimensional flow, can I write vorticity as the function of z direction and k, because it is a xy plane that we have considered over here. So that would be dou v by dou x minus dou u by dou y k cap. This would be our equation 12. Now what if I say my flow is irrotational? So if my flow is irrotational, what happens to zeta? Zeta becomes 0. When zeta becomes 0, it would be dou v by dou x minus dou u by dou y is equal to 0. Equation 13. So this is the condition for two-dimensional irrotational fluid. So whenever you see that the fluid is irrotational, this would be the condition for that. That is, dou v by dou x minus dou u by dou y should be equal to 0 if you want to check if any two-dimensional fluid is irrotational or rotational. Now the question comes that in case we are studying about this irrotational flow, as we discussed in our first video, that where do we apply it, correct? What, why, and where. So the third question, where, comes into picture over here. If I say that yes, my fluid is irrotational, but why do we have to study irrotational fluids? Are there any irrotational fluids actually existing? Yes, we do have some examples of irrotational fluids. And what are those? Let us have a look. So we have subsonic flow over our airfoils, then over the slender bodies we have the supersonic flow, and then subsonic and supersonic flow through the nozzles that we have. But in these cases, there is one small twist or one small point that we have to consider, that usually there is a boundary layer. As we saw, if we take the example of an airfoil, In our previous videos, we saw that there is a boundary layer being formed, correct? So inside this boundary layer, the fluid that we will have would be rotational, but immediately above this boundary layer, what happens to the fluid? The fluid is irrotational, correct? That is, sorry, my mistake, I think it is inside the boundary layer, the fluid is rotational, and outside the boundary layer, the fluid is irrotational. So in such applications or in such cases, we take this calculation or consider this calculation. Now, returning back to our figure that we had considered, what we are going to do is, let us say the angle between this AB and AC, these two lines, is given by a letter K. Let us consider it is given by a letter K. So as this fluid element moves through the flow, the K will keep changing, because we saw that the fluid element is getting distorted, correct? So initially you can see that this is 90 degree, sorry, this is 90 degree over here, K is 90 degree, and when it has came at a point t plus delta t, or after time delta t, the K is changed. So how this K is changing, how this angle is changing, we will have a look at that. So when this K is changing from time t to delta t, it is let us say it is changing by an amount delta K, where this delta K can be written as minus delta 2 minus, and because delta 1 is minus, so it will be minus of minus delta 1. Let us say this is our equation 14. Now if you carefully observe this change in K, so what is this change in K? That is nothing but the strain of the fluid element. So wherever you find this strain to be positive, it corresponds to decrease in K. That is, whenever there is a positive strain, the K is decreasing. That is, the angle between the two lines, two adjacent lines or perpendicular lines of the initially perpendicular lines of the fluid element is decreasing, correct? So we can write strain as minus delta K, because now if I'm writing minus delta K, which means what will be the strain? There will be a decrease in strain. Am I right? Yes. So that would be delta theta 2 minus delta theta 1, correct? Because where positive strain corresponds to decrease in K, and if I'm taking the negative delta K, then it would be written mathematically in this form. That would be equation 15. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to denote this strain or time rate of strain. Let us denote the time rate of strain by term epsilon x y. So I can write this epsilon xy as minus dk by dt, which is my change in strain, that is time rate of strain, correct? So I can write that as d theta 2 minus d theta 1, that is d theta 2 by dt minus d theta 1 by dt. Let us consider this as our equation 6. Now where am I going to substitute this d theta 2, or where am I going to get this from? We already have the values of d theta 2 and d theta 1, correct? So how can we write them? So we already know the values of d theta 1 and d theta 2, that is the time derivatives of theta 1 and theta 2. So I can write epsilon xy as dou v by dou x plus dou u by dou y. Let us say this is our equation 17a. Similarly, you can write for the yz and zx planes as well. So that would be epsilon yz dou w by dou y plus dou v by dou z, and in zx plane it would be dou u by dou z plus dou w by dou x. So this would be our 17p and 17q. See, now what are these three equations? They are the time rate of strain in three different planes. Now here we have to note something, or some important points that we have to note. What are those? Angular velocity, that is the vorticity, and time rate of strain, they depend solely on the velocity derivatives of the flow field. As you saw, angular velocity, vorticity, and also now as we are seeing the time rate of strain, they are depending on the velocity derivatives of the flow field. That is how the velocity is going to vary in the particular direction. That is how your angular velocity and time rate of strain is going to vary. So if I want to write it in mathematical form, in the matrix form, I can write it something of this sort: dou u by dou x, dou u by dou y, and dou u by dou z. Similarly, you get for v as well, and for w as well. So this is in the matrix form that we can write. So this was all about angular velocity, vorticity, and strain on the fluid element. So in this video we just saw how the fluid element is rotating, and if it is rotating, which is certainly yes, the fluid element always rotates when it is moving through the fluid. How do we mathematically consider this in our calculations is what we have looked into this video. So in our further videos we will also be coming up with such interesting topics. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned.